Greetings with another installment from Mental Box Land. This is Jesse Cohen, your host and founder of the Mental Box framework and platform. Today we're going to be talking about male anxiety. So let's get started. Let's get cooking with fire. From the Mental Box perspective, we look at the world with deeper lenses. Remember that. For example, we could look at our emotions, just like the video I touched on last week, where once we have a sense of emotional control in our lives, we should minimize most of our anxiety, or a lot of it anyway. Within the Mental Box framework, we take into account consciousness, not just our own individual male ego. And who we think we are might really surprise us. So if you have a sense of humility, which is one of the tool sets in the Mental Box, as much as we think we're in control, as much as we think we've grown, life can pull us back down. There's that element. If you're humble enough to realize that, we all have limitations. Some men might not want to think about that and want to feel like they're in control and on top of the world, but we are not bigger than life. So anxiety on a deeper level, beyond just emotions, could be argued to be related to insecurity. But if you really dissect insecurity, it's something that's just there all of the time. As long as we have an ego, as long as we're separate from anybody else, we have insecurity. But how do we use our self-awareness tool set to start thinking about this insecurity and learning how to delve deeper into ourselves through this lens? Because that's what insecurity does to us. No matter what we do, the grass is always greener. So we tend to look at others if let's say we're making $1 million a year or $50,000 a year, and we look at some guy over there making $10 million a year. We're like, ooh, what is he doing? Maybe I'm not living up to my potential here because I'm comparing myself to this guy, right? But what if that guy's single, works 48 hours a day, and what if you work a lot less, but you have kids and you're a great father and you love spending time with your son and you're throwing the football out with your son every day? You choose to live a life sometimes that is unique to you. And whoever else you might put on a pedestal or look at, they might also envy you for freedom or time that you have that they don't have. That is the lens of the ego where insecurity comes from, where we want to compare ourselves to others. And we want the grass to always be greener on the other side instead of on our own lawns. But if you are solely trying to prove something to yourself and you don't care what other people think, and you're like, you know what, I want to try this. It might push me a little bit and give me some anxiety, but I always know that if I'm getting too crazy with it, I could stop. If I'm pushing myself too much and I'm unhappy, I could stop. If you really are unhappy with your life and you're just throwing caution to the wind, I'm going to start my own business, I'll take a loan from the bank and I'm just going to do this. I'm not even thinking about what's going to happen. You can only go up from there, and you're going to grow and you're going to reach your potential and all of that. It's all going to come to a head at some point. All of that stress, it's good stress actually because you're building yourself, but all of that's going to come up to a peak. Once you get to that top, you realize the end goal wasn't what I imagined. It really wasn't. And I realized I kind of had to sacrifice things that I wish I had back, and now I can't get them back. I've dealt with a lot of men that were very successful financially, and they pushed themselves and pushed themselves. They got to the top, and then they wanted to let go of it purposefully so they could slow their lives down, have a family, and all of those things. A lot of men, when I bring up the subject, think, oh, you're talking about peace. That's laziness. That means you're just meditating all day long and you're not doing anything with your life. But quite the contrary. Many peaceful men have done it all. And then they reach the top of that mountain and they feel empty and lost. So learning to examine that anxiety within and going into the ego and figuring out what is it that I'm trying to prove to myself in the world. Just to give a quick example before I end this video. In the first part of my life, I had reached the peak for me. It was hard for me to get my graduate degree and start my counseling career. But I did it all on my own. I didn't have any money. I didn't want to rely on loans, but I was able to figure all that out on my own through working and going to school, finished my graduate degree, and that was the peak of my mountain. Oh, and also I wanted to have a family, and my daughter was just born at the time. Now eventually my son was born. Everything was, I would say, was just good memories. Until we moved to Louisville and everything unraveled with the marriage. So at that point, I realized that whatever deeper sense of peace that I had, that I thought I had, it was all me. I worked so hard to get this peace, and I'm such a great person for accomplishing that. When it all unraveled, my ego took a hit. And what I thought I built up to my 30s, late 30s, early 40s, I realized I had to re-examine all of that. And I was able to take a lot of that wisdom I had and reshape it. But it still felt like I fell back down to the bottom of the mountain and I had to climb back up. So remember, if you could relate to the mental box framework and brand, like and subscribe. Until next time. Peace.